Assalamualaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatu. This will be the continuation of the topic Quran and Science, Insha Allah. Bismillahi, rahmani, Raheem. Let's begin. Oceanology से related अगर बात करें तो we can say in the Quran Allah talks about the barrier between the two seas and also the barrier between the fresh and the salt water. The example for barrier between the two seas that we can see now is Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. The example for barrier between the fresh water and the salt water is the Nile River of the Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. The barrier between the two seas are horizontal, side to side, and the barrier between the fresh water and the sea water is vertical, up and down. The fresh water resides down and the sea water or the salt water is above the fresh water. The zone that separates the fresh water with salt water is called as the picocline zone. And these barriers is due to the difference of density, salinity and temperature of the different seas or the fresh water and the salt water. And all these were discovered in the 19th century or later. The HMS Challenger ship had the first expedition related to the oceanography. It was in 1870s, but this was mentioned in the Quran in the 7th century. The Surah Rahman, ayah 19 and 20, in which Allah talks about the barrier between the two seas. He says He released the two seas, meeting between them is a barrier so neither of them transgress. And about the barrier between the fresh and the salt water, Allah talks about it in the Surah Furqan ayah 53, and He is the one who merges the two bodies of water, one fresh and palatable, other salty and bitter, and between them is a barrier that they cannot cross. Another thing related to oceanography you can find in the Quran is about darkness underwater. In 20th century, the scientists discovered that there is a darkness under the ocean as sunlight doesn't reach the depth of the ocean. And obviously this was not to be known in the 7th century as submarine itself was invented in 1624. But the Quran says it in the 7th century in the Surah An-Nur, which is Surah 24 and ayah 40 of it. Like utter darkness in the deep sea, there cover it a wave above which is another wave above which is a cloud layer of utter darkness, one above another. When he hold out his hand, he is almost unable to see it, and it is whomsoever Allah does not give light, he has no light. यहाँ इस आया में एक और चीज जो हम नोटिस कर सकते हैं वो ये है कि अंडर वाटर वेव्स भी होते हैं. एंड नाउ साइंस हैज proved that there is underwater waves also. Thomas Peacock, a well-known oceanographer, says underwater waves are lumbering giants of the ocean, but we see only a little glimpse of them because we live above the surface. And the underwater waves were not discovered until the 19th century. एक और इंटरेस्टिंग चीज जो कुरान से पाया जाता है वो ये है कि हाई अल्टीट्यूड में ब्रीदिंग रेट में डिफरेंस आता है और सांस लेने में मुश्किल होती है. एज वी गो हायर एंड हायर इन द माउंटेन्स, बिकॉज ऑफ द रिडक्शन इन द ऑक्सीजन लेवल, यू गेट ब्रीदिंग डिफिकल्टीज एज देयर इज अ लो सप्लाई ऑफ ऑक्सीजन टू द ब्लड. देयर इज एन अल्टर इन द हार्ट रेट एंड रेस्पिरेशन रेट. कुरान की सूरा 6 दैट इज सूरा अनहाम, उसकी आया 125 में अल्लाह बताते हैं कि those who Allah wills to guide, He opens their chest to Islam, and those who Allah wills to leave astray, He makes their chest close and constricted as if they are climbing high up the sky. अगर मीटियोरोलॉजी की बात करें तो we all know that there are layers for the atmosphere, and there is an ozone layer which protects the earth from the harmful UV radiation of the sun. earth का टेम्परेचर भी मेंटेन होने में एटमॉस्फेरिक लेयर्स मदद करते हैं. कुरान की सूरा अंबिया की आया 32 में अल्लाह बताते हैं कि and we have made the heavens a canopy well guarded and yet you turn away from the sun, and we made the sky a secure canopy and yet you turn away from the sun, and we made heaven a roof safe and well guarded. Notice how Allah warns on turning away from the sun. जब भी अल्लाह कुदरत की चीज़ों का बयान करते हैं, ज़्यादातर जब हम ऐसे साइंटिफिक चीज़ों का इंडिकेशंस लेते हैं ना, वहाँ पर most of the time if you see there will be like yet you turn away from the sign, or we have made this a clear sign for you. Whenever he says such things, he gives a warning like this is a sign for you that I am the creator, and it is not possible for everything to be happening just like that and everything to be going on just like that, and there is no creator for it. One more thing that I want to touch upon in the light of the Quran is iron being sent down to earth. Archaeologists and scientific researchers have now confirmed that iron underneath the earth is due to the meteors that struck to the earth during the initial phase of the creation of the universe. Allah says in the Quran, Surah 52, that is Surah Al-Hadid, and ayah 25 of it, and we sent down iron with its great might, benefiting for humanity. And this research of iron underneath the earth because of the meteor strike during the initial phases of the creation of the earth is a very recent discovery, and Allah mentions it in the Quran in the 7th century. Subhanallah.
हम करीब उनको अतराफ आलम में भी और खुद उनकी जात में भी अपनी निशानियां दिखाएंगे, यहां तक कि उन पर जाहिर हो जाएगा कि कुरान हक है। क्या तुमको ये काफी नहीं कि तुम्हारा परवरदिगार हर चीज से खबरदार है?